Hello my dear lovelies, and there's a lot of hype going on at the moment as well as hate around Alatreon, and I've compiled a little bit of a list of things I think you should know or perhaps, maybe look into. Now there's a lot of information going around with him at the moment, and I'm still seeing a lot of hate on the old Reddit posts, so I'm just adding into the collection as you will, and you never know, I might say something that someone hasn't yet. And if you do hear running around like a lunatic in the background, my cat is being a nut job because for some odd reason it really likes Alatreon. I don't know, might be something to do with the fact that it's a black dragon and she's a black demon. Now firstly, the main question I get asked is it hard? Well, short answer, yes. It's a Monster Hunter game. This is one of the black gods. It's not just an elder dragon, it's literally a god within this Monster Hunter universe. Long answer, how good are you? Do you have a decent setup? Are you prepared for the fight? And my main point on this, and it's really pissing me off that people aren't doing this, have you read the little tutorial box it gives you? Because I've seen so many people go into it with their meta blast longsword builds and get absolutely wiped. And they're like, oh, well, how do you do it? Well, if you read it, it bloody well tells you, numbnuts. So let's get reading on the top of your list of things to do, shall we? Do I have to use elemental weapons? This is actually a bit of an interesting one. When playing solo, I tend not to. I go with Pierce Heavy Bowgun and it works. I think my quickest time is about 9 minutes, not TA rules, obviously. But yes, you do not have to use elemental weapons. You can do it with raw weapons and it works perfectly fine. There is a catch. You will have to eat one of his Eschaton judgments. I think I pronounced that correct. His Nova. Because you could not do the elemental damage, he will do a full power one, which I believe does 480 damage. And this actually goes into the next thing of how Eschaton judgment works. So we'll just do a bit of a useful tangent. Now, without the first topple, I suppose you could call it, he will do an Eschaton judgment, and I believe it's in dragon damage. This will do 480 rough damage, and it does it in about 5 seconds. It's chip damage, so it's not going to stun you, knock you over, anything, so you can't iframe it. It's also map wide, so even doing the Final Fantasy jump, that won't save you either. Can't Firecaster out because the actual quest won't let you. Can't Superman dive. Literally just the only thing that you can do to either prevent it is die beforehand, just before he does it, or do enough elemental damage to descale it. Now, there's a lot of information saying that there is, with a zero topple Eschaton's judgment, that you will not survive it. There's nothing in the game that will let you survive it. Luckily, we have people like Team Darkside. It turns out that if you put 4 health boosters down and all huddle around it and then start spamming a Stera Jerky, I don't know whether it was a fluke or whether it's just doable, but they survived it. So if you want to go raw and you're all prepared to do that, go for it. If not, after 1 topple, I believe it goes to his ice. It might just rotate round, but still, it goes to his ice, and that deals about 280 damage. It's quite easily survivable with things like a Stera Jerky, a health booster, and if you just spam a few life powders if you have them. After 2 topples, I believe it goes to fire, and this really does about 140 damage. And yeah, just take like a mega potion with an Stera Jerky or something and you'll be absolutely fine. So, why elemental damage? Well, for a start, for those that don't know, Alatreon is a returning monster. He is commonly known as the Blazing Black Dragon and possesses control over fire, dragon, thunder and ice elements. And it's also said to be extremely unstable as it produces scales of all 4 elements continually, even after it's supposedly dead. These scales, as I've just mentioned, are incredibly unstable, and the way in which you break that instability is effectively by overcharging them by giving it more element. This causes them to erupt within Alatreon apparently, and therefore decreasing that particular type of elemental damage. This is all within the lore. So that makes sense to me. I think another reason why they've done it to this effect, and by they I mean Capcom, is quite simply because never before have we really had such meta finders such as Jinjinx and Tuna, who I believe are giving Monster Hunter a bit of a break at the moment. But still, because of people like Jinjinx and Tuna, Akantor X, Femito, and obviously Team Darkside still doing the beauty that they do, Monster Hunter World has become one of the more easier variants of the series. So because of that, I kind of feel like they've stepped it up. Now, a lot of the meta at the moment is based around Raw, Blast, Poison, but mainly on the whole Raw side with a little touch of something else. But nothing has really been elemental, which a lot of people on Reddit have been complaining is boring, stale, makes the game very meh, there's no variety. So to shake things up a bit, I kind of personally feel, my own opinion here, that Capcom have gone, well fine, you want to complain about that, let's add in something where you need element to actually fight effectively. And now suddenly it's come out and everyone's complaining about, oh, why does it need element, I want my raw weapons back. And then obviously you've got those people that run Defense 7, Divine Blessing 5, all of the friggin' defense stats, and they're wondering why they're still getting absolutely barbecued in the face of the god that is Alatreon. Well, because Alatreon doesn't give a shit about your pathetic little defense boost 7, and it will still absolutely fry you, get good some. And I'm afraid to say that is going to be the basic argument, bit of a meme I'm aware, for fighting Alatreon. You quite simply just need to get good. And I don't mean just, you know, get good Dark Souls. I mean, learn the fight. Find something that's comfortable for you and learn the fight. Get in there solo. Get in there with 2-man. It is entirely doable. I've seen people complaining that Gun Lance and Lance are absolutely horrible for fighting this thing. And then 30 seconds after hearing that, I've seen people posting like 8-minute clear time solo Gun Lance. Or a 7-minute clear time Lance. I've soloed this thing in about 9 minutes with heavy bowgun, takes me about 12 with light bowgun. I just have to eat in Eschaton's Judgment because I run Pierce or Spread. With elemental light bowgun it takes me about 13 minutes because it is slightly weaker, but it is entirely doable. So now that we're actually talking about elements and how to do it, let's actually look into that side of it a little bit more. So what element should you bring? Now, Alatreon actually has 3 forms. He's got an ice form, a fire form, and a dragon form, and they will rotate. And they rotate from ice to dragon to fire, or fire, dragon, ice. It is quite that simple, and the way in which it rotates depends entirely on the quest name. You have 3 quests. These 3 quests are Dawn of the Death Star, the event, the Evening Star, another event, and then Blazing Black Twilight, the special assignment. Now, this is no coincidence. It's quite simple that if the name of your quest, or if it's the special assignment, is the Evening Star or Blazing Black Twilight, he starts at fire, transitions to dragon, and then eventually ice. Plan your weapon types accordingly, and we'll get to that in a second. If on the other hand, it is Dawn of the Death Star, it's ice, dragon, and then fire. So again, you need to plan accordingly. Now, in these various forms, his weaknesses and resistance change. In his ice form, he is 3-star weak to fire, 2-star weak to thunder, completely resistant to ice, and then 1-star to water and dragon. In his fire form, 3-star to ice, 2-star to water, completely resistant to fire, and 1-star to thunder and dragon. And then in his dragon form, he is 1-star to everything except dragon, in which case he is 2-star. Now, this is also slightly misleading, despite the fact that you need elemental damage to stop or reduce better word, the Eschaton's Judgment, his elemental hit zones are actually pretty damn trash, so you kind of need to play a bit more aggressively than normal, which is hard to do when he's doing stuff like this. If you want a more clear picture of his hit zones, there's been many flying around, but the most accurate one I've come across so far is this. Now, if you are wanting to study this a bit more, I suggest you pause it now-ish. However, if I remember, I will put a link down in the description below to the actual image of this. I believe it's a Discord app image thing, so I'm hoping you've got his Discord, or if that's okay. But yeah, that is probably the most accurate one I've come across, and it just shows just how terrible his hit zone values really are. And time for probably the most important question, team composition. Now, everyone's going to have their favourites of what to run, what they like, what they haven't tried, or etc, etc. Generally speaking, I would say you're going to want your heavy hitter to be the most prioritised on the starting element. So if he's starting as ice, your heavy hitter needs to be a fire weapon. If he's starting as fire, your heavy hitter needs to be an ice weapon. Now, if you've got someone that's particularly good at Charge Blade and they have the Kiar Ice, then I would heavily suggest you pester them to utilise that in your favour, or if that is you, good luck. You're basically going to be the main damage at some point. However, my personal take on team composition, for me personally at least, is one ice weapon, one fire weapon for the main two phases of the ice and the fire switch. However, that phase in the middle, the dragon, the best way to deal with that is dragon. And if you've got someone that's really good at longsword, a dragon longsword does go a long way, simply because it will do pretty damn consistent damage throughout. It's very high DPS and it just works wonders. I also take typically someone that's using raw, which is normally me. I normally take some form of heavy bowgun, or if I'm feeling a bit more ballsy, I'll take a greatsword, because screw it. This team composition does work. I very rarely foul using this team composition, and if we do foul, it's normally just because someone messed up somewhere, which happens. It's nothing really to do with the monster being too difficult or we're struggling. It literally just takes one simple mistake and that's it. Game over. And finally, what skills? This is a tough one because the skill's going to be an extension of the skill you actually have in the game, and to put that into perspective, I've already seen a Korean streamer solo this with a longsword with 0 armor and no talisman, so literally all he used was just his longsword. And so what skills other than get good? Well, get good is a start. Health boost 3 is a pretty damn solid bet, as well as blight resistance, because you're going to get blighted to hell. However, if you're not too keen on blight resistance and you want to go more for a DPS style, coalescence is really, really good, particularly if you're going for an elemental build, and this will, in the case of Alatreon, flat out outperform peak performance. One, you're never really going to be at full health because this thing's going to be chipping away at you constantly. 2, coalescence increases your raw as well as your element, which you're going to kind of need. And you're going to be getting blighted every 30 seconds. Anyway, so screw it. Unless you're running Alatreon armor, in which case you're most likely going to be pretty damn safe. Damage is always a really, really good strong point, as well as maybe trying to get a little bit more of evader window, because he does have a lot of AoE. Most of his hitboxes are pretty much really quite tight and fair. However, that is compensated by him basically hitting the entire map at once at all damn times. Focusing a little bit into elemental resistances, if you've run it a few times and you find that you're getting absolutely pounded by a certain attack, maybe invest into that type of element. However, one that has definitely worked for me, because I normally find that I get pounded quite a bit when I'm trying to heal, I have put a health augment on with some medicine decorations, and this has seen me through many of my fights, as well as saved my arse. As well as, if you're still struggling and you need someone that's a little bit more specialised, either yourself or having a friend with wide range does kind of help. You will need to make up for it by having a bit more damage, but having someone that can just quickly take a quick time out and heal everyone has worked quite well for me so far. Anyway, not the greatest amount of information here because there's already so much out there, and I'm sure that when Jim Dinks and Tuna come around to providing more information, that will make my piddly little video look like a bloody colouring in dot-to-dot book for a 2-year-old. So anyway, that is me. I do hope this has helped, or some of you have enjoyed this, but in the meantime, have fun, good luck, and you're probably going to cart a few times, let's face it. It is a black god after all. Enjoy.